This week I get to talk with a three-peat author on the podcast, Kimberly G. Giarratano, about her newest Billie Levine mystery, Make a Killing. I have loved Billie for, I don't know, however many years, 3-4 years. And I always love the P.I. noir vibes that come to life in her books, and this one was no different. So here's what this one's about. Private investigator Billie Levine should be ecstatic. She's finally getting the cheating spouse cases she's always wanted. Nothing to do but sit back, snap incriminating photos, and get paid. Except Jeremy Yang is competing for work for his own PI firm, advertising himself as the man to get the job done, insert eyeroll. He keeps swooping in and stealing prospective clients. Not to be outmaneuvered, Billie has offered her services to scorned women everywhere. Their rivalry escalates when Billie and Jeremy are hired by an ultra-wealthy couple on opposite sides of a corporate takeover. When the bodies start dropping, Billie and Jeremy will have to join forces if they are to come out unscathed. They can kill each other later. This one had conspiracies going on and cover-ups and competitions between Billie and Jeremy, and I just can't believe how much she packed into this third installation of Billie Levine. That being said, let's hear from Kimberly. If you've been listening, you guys know how much I love PI, novels, noir, all of that. So I'm so excited this series just keeps going, and I'm excited to talk with you about it.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So what I always want to know, especially in series, is was there anything different about writing this one than the other two?
That's a great question. And I want to say no.
Yeah.
You know what well, that's not 100% true. I did decide in my third book to give a few scenes from the point of view of Billie's grandfather, which I did not do in books 1 and 2.
Yes.
I thought it would be fun. And I was like, everyone loves Gramps. No one is going to hate this decision.
No.
And I was like, well, let's just put him in the book. Let's put him more in the book. Like he's in the first 2, but now it begins from his POV where Billie's not around.
Yeah.
And so that was different. And I gave myself license to do it because, again, I figured if you read the books and you enjoy them, you love Gramps and you don't care. And if your introduction into Billie is Make a Killing, then you wouldn't think it's weird anyway. That was
right.
And luckily my editor's like, that's a good rationale. I agree with you. So
yeah,
that was the one different thing I wanted to do because with the cases, I was like, ugh, if Gramps is doing one case and Billie's doing another and he has to explain things to her that the reader knows or doesn't know, I'm going to find that annoying. So I was like,
right.
I'll just have Gramps more in the book this time because I do love writing him. He's a lot of fun.
Oh, I love him so much.
I know, right?
I just want to meet him IRL, but I'm just gonna have to keep meeting him in the fictional world. This one, this isn't totally in the synopsis, but if you feel like it's a spoiler, we can take it out. But this one actually kind of ties in like some corporate, I don't know, toxicity.
No, that's not a spoiler. We can talk about it.
Okay. Some corporate toxicity and some campus toxicity as well. And I thought those were both really intriguing to kind of bring together. So was there anything that inspired you to kind of go that route with this book?
So the corporate toxicity, I was kind of inspired by America's hyper consumerism, like our obsession with buying stuff to make ourselves feel better, which I'm guilty of. I'm a human being. Totally. But I wanted to explore it a little bit. I've never really worked in corporate America. My past life.
Same.
Yeah. I was a teacher as a librarian, definitely not corporate places. But I was sort of fascinated by like the corporate world and capitalism in general, because I do feel like a lot of our current problems and our current political environment has a lot to do with our obsession with hyper-consumerism and how much crap costs. Forget non-essentials. How much does just garbage from Amazon cost us? And I really got into gardening in the last few years. So I've been outside a lot in nature, and I'm worried about the environment constantly. And just corporations do not care about human beings. Maybe Patagonia is it. Maybe. But they don't care about human beings. They care about the
Not really.
bottom line, their shareholders, things like that. And they just don't care. They can present, and we're seeing this real, right? Look at Target.
Yes.
So we're seeing this in real time. We're thinking these corporations care about people. They don't. They care about themselves and their profits. And that's it. That's the reality of the situation. So I kind of wanted to explore that through this luxury travel company that I made up. And
Yes.
As for the campus toxicity, it just sort of went hand in hand a little bit. Like, there are toxic work environments, and sometimes a work environment you think wouldn't be toxic is toxic. Also, as a writer, it's just more fun and to play with a toxicity, that a toxic culture of some kind, than to just pretend like everything's great. Like, I just knew I could make things a lot more fun if I did that. But I
Right.
definitely had something I wanted to say about corporate culture and hyper consumerism and influencers and their effect, and like TikTok shop, and all my Instagrams now are just ads for things, and how I get sucked into stuff,
Yeah.
and I'm like, ooh, what is that? And
Yes.
so I was like, let's explore this a little bit more through crime fiction.
Yes. I'm laughing a little bit because I am wearing a shirt from TikTok shop right now. So that was too perfect.
Yeah.
It really is. Like, the consumerism is it's just everywhere. And you do want to be able to kind of keep track of it. Like, it's like you're saying, there are also versions of even buying from Amazon where, like, it's not necessarily like bad, but it's so easy to just overconsume.
Mm-hmm.
I even think about that sometimes when I'm just like grateful that, like, the books behind me here are book trophies. I am like a digital reader. And really, these are actually just all authors I've had on the podcast, basically. But sometimes I even think of it in that context where I'm like, people who are physical readers, like, eventually, like, I have 400 Kindle books. And, like, I don't know where those would go if I had physical books. So it's hard figuring out how much stuff you actually need versus want. Like, all of that. But I also kind of loved the luxury like travel gear company, because I get so many ads for those on Instagram too. Was there like a reason that you chose that industry too?
Yes. So I've been going to writer conferences the last couple of years, which means I'm traveling by
Oh,
myself.
yeah.
I have 3 children. To fly them anywhere would cost a fortune, but to fly me by myself to a city, it's not that big a deal. So I
Yeah.
kind of got into looking up different travel gear, and like, ooh, should I get a new suitcase? And do I need a new backpack? And like,
Yeah.
stuff I really don't need to go from point A to point B. But I kept getting hyper fixated. I was on like the one bag subreddit. Like, how could I
Mm.
streamline my I wound up spending a lot of like time and mental energy
Mm-hmm.
planning to get on an airplane. It was like so dumb.
Yes.
And that's what happened. And I was like, well, I'm a big believer in buy it once,
Yeah.
buy it for life. Like, that would be great. I still have my Jansport from grad school. That thing is like 25 years old.
That's so cool.
It's in really good shape. And
I love it.
when I was flying, I didn't want to bring a carry-on because I didn't want to pay like, extra fees and stuff. So all of a sudden I was like, oh, my son's soccer backpack is a really good backpack. It's got all these compartments. So then I just started shoving crap in there, and I was like, I don't need any fancy like
Right.
Dagna Dover, I don't even know how you pronounce it, like backpack. Like, just get in there and go. And so I was kind of hyper fixated on travel goods for a little while, just
Yeah.
because what does travel goods represent? A promise of travel. Right?
Yes.
Like, it's so fun to go online and read all the reviews for a dumb backpack, or watch
Yeah.
YouTube videos of people putting like a week's worth of luggage into a Jansport because of the promise of going somewhere.
Yes.
So I just sort of ran with that. That was how it got in my head.
That's such a great point. I literally hadn't been on a plane in over, I think it was 14 years. And 14 years, and then I went to a book launch in New York in January. So I was going through the same thing, because I'm assuming you probably also just enjoy like gathering information. Like, the act of it itself is interesting and fun to me.
Yes.
I'm assuming so, as a librarian as well. And so I was getting the same thing. Like, all of my ads were that direction. And in some ways it does make sense. It is like, if you're really traveling a lot, like the one I was thinking of, there are these like carry-ons where like it completely folds out. You may have seen it even. And then you're like even kind of like putting the clothing in the lining of it that then like makes the walls of it.
I've seen.
And I'm like, it is really smart. Like if you were really traveling so often and you did want to save like money and be able to just fit everything in there that you could, there are some like great solutions out there. But you're right, the other thing it is like why can't I think of the Kieran Culkin, the movie he was in with Jesse Eisenberg?
Oh, where they go to the old country.
Yes, there's a point when they're in a train and they're talking about how like travel has become luxury and like it's actually like it's just insanely expensive and we're upcharging everything. It's not even like super available to everyone. And I think that's part of it too. Like sometimes there's this promise of like, oh, I'm someone who can travel and like I need this stuff. So it falls into luxury so well, basically.
I thought so.
Yeah.
Then I was my biggest headache with making the company was like how much are luxury items, like what could I think I made something. There's a scene where Billy gets some swag, and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't make it cost enough, according to my editor. She's like, I think it could cost a lot more. I was like, I know.
You're like, oh my gosh, seriously.
I was like, okay.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But you're
Um,
it's just and it's becoming accessible too. Like if you're going with others. So I
mhm,
travel low budget. I like traveling low
same.
budget. I feel smug about it, not going.
I probably do too. It's mostly out of necessity,
Right.
but sometimes I am like, look what I figured out.
Also, for me in particular, so I didn't do any writing conferences this year. I took a break.
Hmm.
Last year, one of the ways I could convince my spouse that I should be going to these conferences is I could save, like not save because you're spending money, but I
Hmm.
could go cheaply. I could share a
Yes.
room. I think I flew to Tennessee. I flew to one city, maybe it was Minneapolis, on like $200. It was something ridiculous.
Wow.
And
Hmm.
I was like, it's $200, and then but I gotta drive to Newark. I gotta like park the car. Anyway, long story short, like I am smug about it, and
Yeah.
about how I travel so cheaply by myself. But I'm not comfortable. I don't travel comfortably at all. On
Right.
a tin can to San Diego, and I was like cursing myself for not getting extra leg room. I
Yeah.
had no idea the plane would be this small for like 'cause
Oh,
I'm going East Coast to West.
I was gonna say that's a like completely across the country.
I was like, Kim, you were so cheap and you shouldn't have.
Oh,
It was like I was miserable. I was like, when is this plane landing? Um,
yeah.
I don't even.
Yeah, those long ones, it's worth it for sure
Yeah,
to
so
have a little bit of extra room.
I even said to the flight attendant, I'm like, is this plane unusually small to go to San
Yeah.
Diego? And he goes, yes, actually it is.
And you're like, cool,
Great.
fun. um, the other another conflict in the book is that Jeremy is another PI who is trying to steal her clients, which just like adds a whole other like competition aspect. But then his story also, um, what's the word I'm thinking of? It ends up like crossing with hers too as well. But did you always know you were gonna have her kind of like in a competition with another PI?
I think when I introduced Jeremy in book 2, I was like, this is going to be fun.
Yes.
Make them a bit adversarial. Because I
Mhm.
find that to be a fun trope when I read
Mhm.
any genre is an adversary, one that's worthy of you. Like,
Yeah.
so when I introduced Jeremy, I was like, he'll be a bit adversarial. First of all, I like reading their banter. I do
Yes.
enjoy their
Me too.
I like that she exasperates him. Like he's not
Mhm.
charmed by her.
Yeah.
I'm charmed by him not being charmed by her.
Yes. I
Like
get
I
that.
find Jeremy charming because he's not charmed by her.
Yes.
So I don't. I think definitely when I introduced him, I was like, oh, I was like, I have an idea for this guy, and I know what I want to do.
Mhm.
So I think when I finished book 2, I knew that them having to square off a bit was going to be my book 3. How I was
Yeah.
going to do that at the end of book 2, I probably wasn't 100% sure until I started drafting Make a Killing. But I
Right.
was like, all right, this is how I'll do it. I did want them to somehow combine forces a little bit because it's
Yeah.
also part of the trope. Like they can't be butting heads the whole time. It becomes too tense.
Totally.
Also,
Yeah, I think we talked about it last year too, because I loved their banter in that first book too. I was like, this is just too much fun.
so I mean, I enjoy myself, so I was like, oh, that's
Yeah,
funny.
you can feel it in their scenes. Um, so it also kind of touched on like the corporate toxicity stuff like that. So it's also the story's also kind of taking a look at like what is justice, kind of like institutional silencing, and then also whistleblowers.
Mm-hmm.
So did you do any research into kind of like any of that?
Not really. I the responsible answer would be like yes, but
Right.
no, because uh,
We do hear about it enough that I totally understand you almost don't need to.
there's like laws and rules about whistleblowing, but you know what it
Mhm.
was? You hear so much about how things get buried, you know? So
Mhm.
how major issues don't come to light. You're like, how did nobody talk about this for so long?
Right.
It could be anything. The Me Too movement's a good example of that, where, you know, or there's just famous celebrities. Let's forget like Harvey Weinstein, the big. Sometimes there's people and be like, people have been talking about how awful this person's been forever.
Mhm.
But I'm like,
Yeah.
but it'll only come to the surface way later.
Yeah.
And I always
It's like
find that really interesting. Like, how does this stuff stay quiet?
I know. So quiet. Yeah.
So I guess in my fictional world, I was like, well, there's probably an explanation for that, you know,
Mhm.
suppressing it with money,
Yeah.
um, with threats, people not
Mhm.
wanting to like, you know, people just wanting to move on. Like, I just don't want to deal with it anymore. I don't want, you know,
Yeah.
and that's really, you know, we think in the age we live in with like just our access to technology and information and like viral and all that stuff that this stuff would get exposed more, and it just doesn't.
Mhm. Yeah. And maybe it is, maybe now that we're kind of in the internet age, maybe that's why Harvey Weinstein's really came out, maybe that's why P. Diddy stuff is coming out. But yeah, like when you hear just decades of this, you're like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
that's a little scary.
Neil Gaiman. That was like a big wake up call to the literary world, and
Yes.
people
Yeah.
were surprised. And I'm a huge Tori Amos fan. I love this.
Mhm. Mhm.
She was best friends with Neil Gaiman, and
Wow.
I was talking to another friend. I was like, did she put out a statement? I feel like she would have. And she said she didn't know this side of him or something. And sometimes I
Uh,
don't believe her. I just wonder. You know,
I know.
I wonder.
It's kind of hard too cuz it's kind of that's like reminding me of like Teresa Giudice for anyone who
Oh yeah,
doesn't know.
yeah, Jersey Woman.
Like going to prison, it in some ways she really could have just been sorry, my hiccups are attacking me. She really could have just been signing what Joe put in front of her, or maybe she did know. We don't know. But it's like you even see that happen with spouses, and I'm like, you weren't aware of anything though.
There have been who just the author, very famous author who it found out she's dead now. She just died.
Oh,
Like, why am I blanking on all names?
my brain keeps blanking
It's
for me
probably
today.
mid 40s, but you know, her daughter was sexually abused by the author's husband, and
Oh,
it was, you know, she just hid it. You know, she didn't do anything. She didn't leave the man. She didn't protect her kids. She just sort of denied it and hid it. And her daughter,
oh
and we don't you find out about we found out about that through the daughter after the author died, and
man,
you Google it afterwards and think about it. Like, that's the name.
yeah,
But you know, it's a huge blow to people who admire the work too, because it changes everything. J.K. Rowling is a great example, right?
yes.
Like, she's got it. There's a new Harry Potter show, and now she's saying like her proceeds she's going to use to fight and like fight against trans rights. Like, who wants to? Nobody wants to support her doing that.
And why is she so bothered by it? Like, let it
So
go.
weird to me. Like, why? What? Like, why is she obsessed with this issue? It's like, I want to be
I
a
know.
horrible human being as vocally as I can. I do. So this brings me to another point about the book.
Yeah.
I do think there comes a point where you have so much money
Mm.
and people have been telling you. Now, she didn't even grow up rich, so she gained
Mm-mm.
her wealth way later, right? But the same thing with like Elon and Bezos and all of these billionaires. They have no idea what reality is anymore. They
Right.
think because they have billions of dollars that the minute they open their mouth to say something, it does become news. You know,
It does.
Elon showed up, with a black eye. Now he says his 5-year-old at the White House. His 5-year-old,
Yeah,
that's a very possible situation.
it is.
Who cares? But the point is, it's news.
Yes.
His kid could accidentally hit him in the face. We all have children; their limbs are white.
Right.
Yeah, fine, whatever. But that's news. The minute they tweet something, they post something, they blink funny, it's news. And because everything a freaking billionaire says is news, they think their opinions, no matter how bad they are valuable.
Yes.
And they're not, as we all know. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think she's just like, she thinks I have all this money and power. Ha ha. I'm going to
Yes.
put it towards this terrible cause,
Yeah.
that I, for some weird reason, am hung up on.
Right.
And you're all going to just deal with it because I have all this power because I have all this money.
Yeah. And there's a large part of the population that's like, they kind of either are not aware of her being that way, or they're just like, it's just Harry Potter though, I'm still gonna enjoy it. And I'm like,
it's hard to enjoy now. I mean, there's definitely a point where the artists diverge, I would argue.
That's the hard part. Yeah.
Like Tolkien and The Hobbit, right? Tolkien was
Mm-hmm.
a bit anti-Semitic. I don't really know specifically and how much. So
Yeah.
kind of at some point they divest, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But J.K. Rowling is still alive. Harry Potter is
Yes.
still fairly recent.
Yep.
And it's very hard to divest her right now. Maybe in
It
100
is.
years when she's long gone, its
Yeah.
descendants will be like, I love Harry Potter. And they'll be like, did you know J.K. Rowling was a huge transphobe? And it's like, that
Yes.
sucks. I mean, we'll all know it because,
Mm-hmm.
guys on the internet.
Yeah.
But this is a hard one. I mean, I don't know what's it going to be on HBO. I don't even get HBO.
I can't even remember. Yeah.
I'm not gonna worry.
Something.
I'm curious though, and now I'm annoyed. I'm like, I can't watch it.
Right. There's an interesting book that my friend Holly Sutton put on my radar called Monsters: A Fan's Dilemma. And it kind of explores this. So I think eventually it's gonna be one of my next like audiobooks for my dog walks, because you're just like, what do you do with this? Both male and female. Kind of like we were talking about J.K. Rowling as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, if anyone's interested, that might be interesting to you as well.
I'll definitely check it out because I feel like we're really in that moment now. We're
Yes.
I mean, long ago, people did not find this stuff out.
Yeah, right.
It died
Exactly.
with them, and then people started digging in and looking at memoirs and interviews and like, this guy wrote this stuff, and if you read letters, he was like this, and you're like, like growing up as a kid, Henry Ford and Charles Lindbergh, American heroes. Then you're like, they were raging anti-Semites. We didn't learn that as kids.
Right.
Now the stuff is really
you don't.
accessible. We kind of know.
Mm-hmm.
We can make decisions based on it.
Yeah. Yeah. So much to tackle there. But then with this story, we start off with a journalist named Alan, who basically kind of gets run off the road. And then his sister reaches out to Billie to be like, this seems suspicious. Can you look into it? And I've always wondered, because like he is an integral part of the story, even though for most of the story he is deceased. Do you do any like character work with like the character who's the main part of the case?
I don't sit there. I'm sure I jot down notes and things like that. I don't do major character write-ups. I know some people who do. I have a friend who does, and I don't know why. Maybe I just picture them in my head. I kind of get who they are, and I can work.
Right.
It's been actually pretty good. It's funny you bring that up because when I struggle to write a scene, it's usually because I don't know the character well enough.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, why can't I write the scene? Because I don't know who this person is. I don't know what they're like. I don't know what happened to them. I don't know anything.
Yeah.
I just wanted to, get some words down on the page.
Right.
But Alan he felt very real from the beginning. I was, picturing him pretty easily. So I didn't have to do character work. I had to, So originally when I was brainstorming Make a Killing,
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying, there are two cases that intertwine, and one of them, the corporate case was what I
Mm-hmm.
had solidified first. I was like, I really want to talk about corporate toxicity.
Yeah.
And then I was like, but I have to figure out how to like tie in this other event. And then so once I start doing them, like, well, how do I do that? And who could be connected and blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's what happened in that case. And then I was like, and because for all three books, there is sort of, I call it chapter one, it's really a prologue, where
Mm-hmm.
we get insight into the victims
Yeah.
a little bit. So
Totally.
um I had a lot of fun, oddly, doing that in the second book, Devil in Profile, because I wrote a scene through the eyes of a horrible old man.
Yes, he was terrible.
A horrible, and you know it the minute you open the book, the first scene.
Yeah.
He's terrible.
Yes.
And writing him it wasn't fun per se, but it wasn't like,
Right.
it wasn't, fun's not the right word. It was sinister. And
Yeah.
for some reason it was not hard to do. I don't know why. I was like, does that say something about me? But what, like, because he was kind of awful, it was
Right.
everybody's reaction to him that was actually the more enjoyable part to the storytelling. But
Yeah.
there's just something about that first scene where you get insight into this person. Like, why should I care that they're dead?
Yeah.
Even if they're not a good person, why should I care that they're dead? So,
Right.
because it's going to affect Billie.
Right. The whole rest of the book
We
for
care
sure.
about her. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
With the college portion of it, Kentwell, it really had its own kind of like atmosphere. Like it actually even felt very, which I guess most colleges are kind of insular.
Mhm.
And so it's kind of easy to get into like a hive mind about protecting the people or not talking about certain stuff. Was there anything you did to kind of like develop that setting? It's almost a character itself.
So Kentwell is obviously, it's not real, but I base it off of the college I went to in New Jersey, which is called
Oh,
College of
nice.
New Jersey. And I shouldn't say I base it. The campus itself, the way I envision it, is just one of the only colleges I've known is TCNJ.
Right.
So when I'm thinking of dorm rooms, I'm picturing the dorm rooms at TCNJ when I was there.
Yeah.
And so I can kind of get that vibe down, I think, pretty good, because I just remember college. Just, you remember things. You remember your
Oh, yeah.
dorm and, the smells that permeate, and in the first book, in Death of a Dancing Queen, Billie goes to Cantwell and interviews people. And in the dorm rooms, like I just made it my freshman dorm. I remember people making popcorn in their microwaves and it like stinking up the entire floor. And so a lot of that stuff, like, it doesn't really leave you. So it's a good sensory, like,
Mm-hmm.
on it.
Yeah.
Well, it's fun to write too. It would be cool to do a book that's just like set at Kentwell and see
Yeah.
what I could conjure up. I'll put it in the vault. I
Yes.
think there's a lot, because I bring it into the story, but it's not
Yeah.
like 100% set there. But
Mm-hmm.
and then some of the things I'm sure I mess up on, because it's probably a lot more techie now to get into dorms and stuff. There's probably an app on your phone
True.
into a dorm. I have no idea.
I don't either.
I had to like put my card in the reader, I think.
Yeah.
And I think I
Same.
had a key for my actual dorm door. Like,
Right.
sure, now there's like buttons or
Probably.
gotta be an app.
There's gotta be an app. I would assume so.
Mm.
And the other thing that it touches on while we're on campus is how prominent hazing is, which is like kind of an interesting subject at large, because it's something that in some ways our culture is like, that's just what it's like in Greek life. Like that has to happen. I'm using air quotes if you're not watching. But obviously there are versions of it that are like just, like, oh, you have to drive the seniors places is like the benign one I can think of from college. There's like that. And then there's like really bullying someone or putting them in danger and all of that. So was there something about hazing in general that was like intriguing to you to bring into this story?
That's a good question. I think I used the hazing for a plot point in particular. I was not a part of Greek
Hmm.
life. My
Me
husband was,
neither.
though.
Yeah.
He was part of Greek life at college, and he would tell me stories that he would send the pledges to Philly to get him a cheesesteak. That's insane. And but what makes it more insane is he went to college in Hoboken, New Jersey. So Hoboken to Philly is not an errand. It's
No.
like at 3 a.m. I'm like that.
And is the sandwich still good?
I, I'm like,
Yeah.
you're insane. That's insane. I don't want my kid to ever do that. Like, what if something happened? Like, you're nuts. But
Right.
that was their level of hazing. Like, it really,
Right.
it wasn't a physical thing. It was. I remember when I was in college, I was an editor for the student newspaper, and I needed something from one of my writers, and I needed it ASAP. And he's like, I can't get it to you until so and so comes and meets me first. I said, that doesn't make any sense. Get your ass over here. And he's like, I have to wait for an escort. I'm like, what? WTF? It was part of the pledging. He had to wait to be escorted by another pledge to come to my office to give me paper. I mean, we're talking about 1999.
Right.
And I just remember being furious. So like, it's stupid stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
that I find to be absurd because one, it affected me, and two, it's just so dumb. I can't even. But this is why I'm not in Greek life. So I think
Same.
we think of hazing like um, it's physical harm. A lot of the time, things just get out of hand,
Hmm.
um, and that's kind of like it has fallen out of favor because it's cool. Colleges are supposed to be like really on top of this stuff, and
Hmm.
we have phones that we can record heinous things happening, and then like there are consequences for that and stuff like that.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I mean, bullying hasn't really died. It's called trolling. And then I was trying to
Totally.
think of what is new forms of bullying.
Mm-hmm.
That was like I don't think I was trying to get I'm like, what would somebody do to be trolling but in a weird uncomfortable, like I was trying to figure that out, and I struggled a bit with that particular part. I'm like, is my imagination
Yeah.
stretching the way it needs to, because I couldn't
Yeah.
think about it. But
Hmm. Another kind of parallel I thought was interesting because we talked about with the company VHG, um, and the college. We talk about consumerism or kind of capitalism in with the business, but also a lot of our colleges are just as much a part of capitalism at this point. So I thought it was interesting pairing those two together because actually both of them really function as like institutions that are like, this is how things are done, and kind of like we protect our own. Were you thinking about that, or did that just kind of like happen since you included both?
I did not actively think
Ooh,
that. So
nice.
you just gave me something to think about that I thought about.
You can tell people in other interviews that you did.
But actually, you make a really good point. So I have college campuses now have franchises on it. You can go to Starbucks, you can
Yeah.
go away. I know when I was a grad student at Rutgers, like I could go and get fast food right on campus.
Yeah, we had like multiple Chick-fil-A's.
Yeah. So that consumerism, capitalistic, reach is still on college campuses. And also college
Mhm.
is a fortune. It's just an expensive undertaking that
Yeah.
and then we can talk about predatory loans and all that stuff. I mean,
Mhm.
we're not gonna, but so they naturally really go hand in hand, and there's so
They
much
do.
influence of students on each other in terms of like what you have, just like in high school. When I went to college, I came with nothing because I didn't know
Mhm.
what to bring, because there was no internet. There
Right.
but there wasn't. It wasn't like there was a subreddit for me to go like, what should I bring?
Mhm.
And I get to college and I see all these kids, and they all have these, they're called husband pillows. Do you know what they are?
Oh, are these the like body pillows?
No,
No.
maybe they have a different name. They're almost like pillows you put behind you with like little arms out.
Oh, yes, kind of like a chair, like half of a chair.
Everyone had one. I've never seen one before. I was like, oh, I just put my pillow up against the headboard of the wall. Like,
Yeah.
that just, or everybody came with posters. I didn't even think about posters or thought.
Yeah.
I was like, how, and you could be like, Kim, you didn't think of anything. I really didn't. There just wasn't any way to prepare me.
That is a good
I need
point.
a TV and a fridge. That's what I need. I need to eat.
Yeah.
But like everybody had these rain pants, these like athletic swishy pants we called.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't own a pair. I wasn't in athletics. I never.
Yeah.
They were fantastic. But I was like, Mom, I need this. Mom, I need that. Everybody has these things, and
Yeah.
you're sort of surrounded by people. But it was like an unwritten rule that everybody had this thing, and I didn't. But you just, and I'm sure I know there's that reality show about the University of Alabama pledged sorority girls and stuff.
Oh my gosh.
So just to even see, that in order to get into these sororities of having to buy in.
Yeah, you have to have Chanel.
Right.
Like all kinds of stuff. I'm just like, I just don't care. I don't care. And I'm not saying it to sound cool. I've just never cared about like what logo was on something. But yeah, those TikToks during Alabama Rush, like I hope they're happy and maybe they really are happy. But they make me sad when I see them.
So that's a really good point. So this hyper consumerism that I see on TikTok, that I see on Instagram, that I'm still a part of in many ways, depresses the hell out of me.
Yeah.
If I
Yeah.
unboxing videos, getting 5 bags to review, what are you doing with the excess? Where is it going to go? Is it going to sit in a landfill? Like I think about this stuff a lot.
Yes.
Especially because I like to be outside as much as possible.
Yeah.
I don't buy books anymore. I as an author, like I go to the library. I walk to the library, and the library will buy the book, and then the library will let a bunch of other people read the book. That's what I do. So that I don't physically have things because I can't. I'm nervous about all the stuff I have now.
I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's harder to keep your house clean. That's like the other thing. Like,
and I can't get rid of stuff very easily.
Yeah.
Like Facebook Marketplace, I'm constantly. I live in a rural area, and even just trying to offload your stuff doesn't work very well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you don't want to accumulate too much. I'm with you on that. Well, what have you been reading from the library? That's a good transition.
Okay, things that I have on currently. I read a book called The Eights so these are not all crime fiction. The Eights by Joanna Miller, historical fiction. I had the library buy it for me. It's about the first matriculating class of women from Oxford University.
Whoa.
It is fiction. It's very beautifully written. I enjoyed the hell out of it.
Ooh.
You know what I'm reading that you probably... Did you watch Dairy Girls?
Yes.
Okay. So, Murder at Gull's Nest by Kidd, last name Kidd, first name blanking on. It's upstairs and I'm reading it from the library. The audiobook is read by the actress who plays Sister Michael from Dairy.
Oh, nice.
And that is set in 1954, like an ocean seaside community in England. And Nora Breen is the main character, and she is a nun, a former nun. She left her order to go find her friend.
Nice.
But the audiobook, which I'm reading the book, is narrated by, I think it's Siobhan something, but I'm blanking on her last name. It's from Dairy Girls. So if you love that show and you love her voice, and you just want her to say things like, Claire, you will go far in life, but you will not be well liked. I would recommend that. That's very good.
Yeah.
What else have I been reading?
Those are 2 good ones.
I really enjoyed that. I've been reading historical fiction because I just wrote a draft of a historical novel set.
I remember I think we talked about it last year.
And I finished it.
Good for you.
Thank you. So if anybody wants to send me good vibes, because it's hard to sell books. It's still hard, even when you have them published. It's still hard to get books sold in general. It's a
especially in another genre.
It's still crime fiction. It's just historical.
Oh, that's good.
But publishing is a tough industry. Any art industry is, but publishing in particular can be quite tough.
Yeah,
that's with my agent. I won't see anything back for several weeks. And I'll be curious to hear what her thoughts are. I'm always curious. You're always terrified a little. You're like, I gotta be
right, scared but curious.
Yeah. But,
totally.
So I've been reading a lot of historical fiction just to keep me like in that group. What have I read? Oh, I I was
I know.
today.
You,
I really
you always ask, and then you're like, what have I read?
I've been reading. I have to go. I wish my library account would show the books I've checked out, but
Oh, yeah.
it doesn't.
That would be helpful.
I don't know what.
That's okay. Those are two good ones.
Yeah. Well, what are you?
I just read, this one's kind of historical fiction, but it's a blend. I just read We Don't Talk About Carol,
No.
which is about a woman whose grandma passes and she goes back to her house and finds this picture of someone who really looks like her. And she ends up finding out that she has an aunt that we don't talk about Carol. No one talked about her because she ran away in the 1960s in North Carolina. At least that's what her grandma said, was that she ran away. But then the main character, Sydney, realizes there were 6 black girls who went missing over like the course of a couple of years during that time. And so she gets really into investigating and figuring out what actually happened to this aunt that she never knew. So it's definitely like it, most of it takes place like in present times, but you also are going kind of back and forth, and it's like an intergenerational family mystery.
I like those family secret books.
Yeah,
I
it's
dig
a
them.
really good version of it. I loved it. I really enjoyed it.
Yes.
And now I'm reading the Medusa Protocol, which is the second in Rob Hart's Assassins Anonymous
Oh
series.
yeah, I read the first.
So
Yeah.
it's like a spy thriller. It's assassins who aren't killing, so it's kind of not, but that's like the closest genre I can basically compare it to. So I've kind of been all over this month too.
It's fun. I sometimes like I also have on my nightstand the third book in the Emily Wilde series. This is not fiction. It's historical fantasy about they're called dryadologists. That's like
Okay.
they study fairies and fairy kingdoms. It's
Oh,
like
nice.
if Holly Black was more academic,
Okay.
then that would be this. And it's been a great series. I'm on the third book. So, and then Maggie Stiefvater's book comes out. I think it's just when mine does. I pre-ordered the hell out of that one. The Followers, because I'm a big Maggie Stiefvater fan.
Yeah.
And so I just pre-ordered that. And I pre-ordered the Mick Herron book, the new Horses Slough House book, which won't be out till fall, I think.
Yeah.
And then I have also on my nightstand that I've read, speaking of out of genre, like John Green's Everything is Tuberculosis.
Oh my gosh, I've been thinking about listening to that one. I'm like, this is such a fascinating concept.
He must do the audiobook. I have to imagine he does the audiobook.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
I love the Greens. I love John Green's work, and his writing is so good, even when it's about something where you're like, this is terrible.
Yeah, yeah.
You're still
Totally
captivating. Like he's really good about it. And I know I've read 8,000 books, and I literally am blanking on all of them because I can't even like look up at my what other books? I see the God of the Woods. Did you read that, Liz Moore?
I did read that last year.
I loved it. Did you like it?
It was a little slow for me, but I'm known for not being a slow burn person. So, but I liked it overall.
I find her writing to be really good. So
it is.
I am very so when a writer is a really good writer, you'll find their work boring.
Right.
But I will go and read bad reviews of books I love.
Yeah. Yeah.
To show myself that you cannot please everybody, and two, people are nuts in their opinions.
Yes.
I'm like, so and so hated this book.
Right.
Plenty of people hated it. I was like, you can't please everyone. So if the writing is like really exceptional, I don't get bored, because I think what I wound up doing is like digesting those sentences. I'm like, how did they do this? Because I read Northwoods by Daniel Mason too. Not crime fiction.
Yeah.
Very intriguing. And I could see how people could say it was slow, but the writing was so good, I just didn't care.
Yeah. I get that. I don't know why. I need things to move along.
I don't blame you.
In general. So
my big thing when I finish a draft is this boring?
Right.
Bored at any point. Like I don't I mean, sure, I'm a writer. When people say this was beautifully written, love your writing, I'm beaming. But if somebody was like, I couldn't put this down, that's it. Game over.
Yeah.
That's all I want to hear. So
that's how I feel.
Yeah.
Well, that's how I feel about your books. That's why I love Billie. And I'm guessing by the ending you left it open to the possibility, but you never know if there'll be another one, right?
As of now, there's always Billie books in my head.
Right.
So I always have story ideas. So, but I'm only contracted for the 3.
Okay.
So I don't know what's going to happen. But really, my agent said this, and she made a great point. She's like, you just don't know what's going to happen with the series.
Yeah.
For all you know, the books could catch on like fire, and then they're like, we want more. That happened to McHerron. Frequently. But sometimes a series can find success later, and then, there's definitely more demand. There's demand for more books.
Yeah, totally.
But it really just depends. Publisher, what happens? I haven't heard anything. Publisher, weird. And we'll just see. But I definitely have more story ideas, like tons of. So if they're like, Kim, we want a 4th book, well, Kim's on it. So
Kim will be on it. Well, anyone, like I said, if you love P.I.s, if you love kind of noir, like all of that, go get this whole series if you haven't read the whole series. And then hopefully we will just have tons of people asking for a 4th one.
Yeah, that would be lovely. I'll take it.
Yeah. Where can people follow you to stay up to date with everything?
I've sort of limited my social media now to pretty much Instagram. It's Giarratano. But if you Google me, you'll find my website and it'll tell you where.
Yeah.
I've just been sticking to Instagram. I've been overwhelmed by social media. I don't know about you.
It's okay.
Yeah. I read a lot and I lurk a lot, like on Threads or Blue Sky on Reddit. But
I've been enjoying Threads.
I like Threads.
Yeah.
I find I do better if I'm part of a conversation. If I'm just posting something, I don't really I did get a weird traction on one thread. I had like 5,000 likes. I was like, what the hell is that?
Wow.
I know, but I've gotten to this weird point where I'm at, maybe just, I'm in my mid 40s. I'm like, nobody needs to hear my opinion on this.
Right.
Like, that's my new thing. Nobody wants my opinion on this. Like, I don't need to be one of a bazillion voices to the conversation anymore.
Right.
Not because I don't agree with people. I'm not on your side. Like, all of that. I just don't think they need to hear from me about things that, I don't know. That's how I feel lately.
I get it. So, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I will put those links in the show notes so everyone can go see when you do have some things to share.
And I do videos. Sometimes I'll do some videos on Instagram and you can kind of get an idea of what I'm curious about at the moment. Like,
yeah. Well, hopefully you'll be back in a year with some kind of book. We'll just see.
Yes. Well, publishing works at a glacial speed. So who the hell knows?
Might be 2 years. But hopefully there's a future one.